meeting of the City Council of Charleston to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember White. Here. Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Lewis. Here. Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Wagner. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seeking. Here. Councilmember Shade. Councilmember Regal. Councilmember Moody. Here. Councilmember Wilson. Here. Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And now, if you would like to join us, Councilmember Regal, would you please say an invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
If you'd all please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of this great, great country. I'm sorry. Remind me of the prayer first. Dear Lord, please place your blessings over this wonderful gathering of citizens of the great city of Charleston, the city of Charleston staff, and the council members who are in attendance tonight. We ask for your direction and guidance as we go about doing the business of this great city. As this esteemed body makes decisions that potentially will affect the day-to-day lives of each and every one of our citizens. Also, dear Lord, we ask tonight that you keep in your thoughts and under your eyes of protection the many, many women and men of the great city of Charleston who day in, day out, rain or shine, provide services continually to this wonderful city. And this dedication and this purpose was no better demonstrated than it has been over the last several years, and more recently with the storm events that we continue to have, unfortunately. Dear Lord, we give thanks in thy name and ask you to bless our daily bread. In thy name, amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
So, this evening, to start with, we are very honored to have a special guest with us this evening, all the way from Greenville and Columbia, South Carolina, Justice John Kittredge, who is a justice of our Supreme Court of South Carolina. He was born in Greenville and graduated, I noted, from University summa cum laude, the very highest academic honors, and after law school, he started his legal career with the Honorable Judge William Wilkins, practiced law, and as early as 1991 became a judge on the family court bench, and later went to both the circuit court and the Court of Appeals, and since 2008 has served our state on our Supreme Court. So Judge Kittredge is here because he's involved with CALEA, which is the Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. And when he saw the report that came back this year for the reaccreditation of our City of Charleston Police Department, well, he'll share with you himself, but I believe he was so impressed with our credentials that he wanted to come and make a special presentation. So I give you Supreme Court Justice John Kittredge. Please welcome Judge Kittredge to the podium. May I ask Chief Ron Taylor to join us on the podium as well?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for those kind and generous remarks. To you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Chief Taylor, Madam Clerk, thank you for inviting me to present the CALEA Reaccreditation Award to your outstanding police department, the Charleston Police Department. As the mayor said, CALEA, an acronym that stands for the Commission for the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. It's the gold standard for public safety agencies in the United States. I want to tell you just a little bit about CALEA. It was formed in 1979 when the founding organizations recognized a need within the law enforcement community to develop professional standards to enhance the delivery of police services throughout the communities that the agencies serve. Since its inception, CALEA has accredited agencies under standards developed by many of the best public safety practitioners and leaders. And these standards serve as a modern management model that provides the framework for recognizing professional excellence within public safety. CALEA, in a sense, forces a law enforcement agency to confront its weaknesses. For no organization is perfect. This is tied to the adage, when weak institutions come together, they speak only of their strengths. But when a strong institution comes together, it talks about and indeed confronts its weaknesses. Does CALEA certification guarantee a professional law enforcement agency? No, it absolutely does not. CALEA and its standards are, to be sure, an important part of the successful formula. But the best standards will not lead to success unless the other part of the equation is present. That is, there can be no real success in law enforcement without quality individuals, good leaders, folks with character, integrity, and an uncompromising commitment to do the right thing in the right way. The Charleston Police Department has been successful because of leaders, previous and current leaders, and many individuals committed to serve the public good. And yes, quite frankly, I have to refer to Chief Taylor, to the command staff, and the officers throughout the ranks. But I want to also refer to you, Mr. Mayor, and the honorable members of council. This level of recognition, year in and year out, does not happen on its own. It does not come without great leadership in the broader community. This does not happen without a supportive partnership with City Council. City Council, who shares and promotes a vision for the optimum and professional and accountable law enforcement. And I'd be remiss, Mr. Mayor, if I did not acknowledge your role and that of your esteemed council. Permit me to briefly give some context concerning CALEA accreditation. There are approximately 18,000 law enforcement agencies in America. Only 5% are accredited. Many agencies want to be accredited. And while many espouse professionalism, only a few agencies accomplish the goal. The certificate that has been prepared and I will present to the mayor and the chief in just a few moments is a certificate. But let me tell you folks, it represents so much more. It represents a true commitment by true professionals, such as your own, the exceptional Chief Taylor, who's highly regarded in law enforcement circles in America. That commitment must be and remain strong, or the goal will not be reached, and importantly, the goal will not be maintained. CALEA accreditation is reserved for the few agencies like yours that demonstrate excellence. Let me take it just a moment a step further. I noted only 5% of all law enforcement agencies in America are accredited. That's a pretty select company. But I tell you that within that 5%, your police department is right there at the top. And I think this is what motivated me, Mr. Mayor, to get in my car and drive down this afternoon. At CALEA, we permit agencies to undergo even more rigorous scrutiny. And for the few that make it, that agency will receive the highest level of certification, the gold standard with excellence. CALEA, during the assessment period, noted that the Charleston Police Department had every file in order, had 0 standards in what we call in CALEA non-compliance. Folks, that's almost unheard of. And within that select group of 5% of the accredited agencies, the Charleston Police Department embraced the challenge and sought the additional CALEA accreditation at the highest level, the gold standard with excellence. Your police department met that challenge and is in very rare and select company. At the CALEA conference this past July in Rhode Island, where I had the pleasure of reacquainting myself with Chief Taylor and his group that came to Rhode Island, the Charleston Police Department was again reaccredited with top honors with excellence, the best of the best. And the assessment of the Charleston Police Department was furnished to all of the CALEA commissioners. And I just want to share with you how the report concluded, and I quote, "The Charleston Police Department's core values are honor, excellence, accountability, respect, and teamwork. It is readily apparent that the Charleston Police Department utilizes the CALEA process to maintain those values and provide the community it serves with the highest quality law enforcement possible," close quote. CALEA salutes you, Chief Taylor. It salutes the fine accreditation manager as well, and all the fine men and women of your outstanding agencies. And Mr. Mayor, I further want to recognize you again for your outstanding leadership, to you and to the members of council. And it's my honor to be with you this evening and present the CALEA Reaccreditation Professionalism Award with excellence to your agency, the Charleston City Police Department. Yes, sir.
I'd like to next ask Chief Taylor to make a special presentation as well. Chief Taylor.
As Commissioner and Judge Kittredge stated in reference to CALEA, the key to it is management, doing the right thing at all times. And one of the person that is very, very key in the entire process is the accreditation manager. Our accreditation manager is Sergeant Patrick McLaughlin. Do you mind coming up, Pat? This certificate of appreciation to Sergeant Patrick McLaughlin as an expression of gratitude for your contribution to the law enforcement accreditation program as accreditation manager. And I want to thank you. Yes, and I would like for the other officer, and also Sergeant McLaughlin, would like to come up, please, which is Captain Dale Middleton, who is in charge of professional standards, Doug Guccio, Assistant Accreditation, and also Captain George Brisbane, the Island Commander. Okay. They come down.
All right, bro, get in front. You look like taking pictures.
Thank you again, Your Honor. It is an honor to have you with us. Drive safely. So maybe a little competitive spirit here, not to be outdone. I did want to also announce that our fire department has received a favorable rating on its annual compliance report with the Center for Public Safety Excellence. The evaluation by this group found the department to be in full compliance with 240 core competencies for a second year in a row. This means the department is on track as far as maintaining its accredited status for another year and continues to make progress in addressing 14 strategic and 10 specific recommendations made during the initial accreditation, which happened about 2 years ago. So always striving to improve. This affirmation by the Center for Public Safety Excellence is a testament to the commitment and dedication of the men and women who make up the Charleston Fire Department and selflessly serve our community each and every day. So if I may, a general round of applause, may I ask you to recognize all of our first responders, fire and police. All right, thank you very much. We have no public hearings this evening. The next order of business is to approve our city council minutes from September 26th.
Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Okay. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, under Petitions and Communications, I just had one more kudo or congratulations this to our finance department, Amy Wharton and all the folks over there, but also to the leadership of City Council, who for years has, along with my predecessor, led Charleston to its first AAA credit rating. But just recently, both of the rating services, Moody's Investors Service and Standard & Poor, gave a new review and a reaffirmation of the highest credit rating possible to a municipality, to the city of Charleston. We have a AAA credit rating, and it was noted in their reports our sound financial position and the fact that we have a higher reserve now as a percentage of our budget than the city has ever enjoyed in its history. So Amy, would you please just take a bow? So that makes a huge difference, folks, when we go to the bank to borrow money. When I say go to the bank, issue bonds for not only our own purposes, but our sister organization, Charleston Water Services, and the money that we save compared to other cities and jurisdictions around the country is really substantial. So having a great credit rating means a great deal to our city. So next is our citizens' participation period, and we only have one microphone tonight working for some reason. So if you would queue up over here, Madam Clerk will call out about 3 or 4 folks at a time. We have a 30-minute period, a little over 30 people signed up. We're going to say a minute a person, and Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Larry Carter, Yes. Muhammad Idris, and W.C. Wilson, followed by Mark Knapp.
All right. Mohammed, would you proceed while Larry comes down? I don't think he'll mind.
Evening, Muhammad Idris. I'd like to say that this city says, they say that this city is under sea level, and level being balance, and I have to agree with them. When you look at this city, it's not level at all between the rich and the poor. This city had me locked up unjustly, and I did not like it. I thought it was a racist thing. But when I see what they did to Councilman Regal, a man whose wife had brain cancer, and how they treated this man in here and said that it wasn't a public hearing, was a shame before God.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carter?
Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council and my fellow Charlestonians and guests, my name is Larry Carter Center, and I came here to urge this city to reclaim its world leadership. In 1833, on Christmas Day, the best friend of Charleston ran from the city to Somerville. And it ran in a continuing way until 1962, when I was 10 years old. There is a proposal, not well drafted, to resume that basic line from Charleston to Somerville. Only it'll be a bus line on rubber wheels in a dedicated depressed roadway, so it will only turn at Somerville and turn down here in Charleston and just run straight real fast and get a lot of traffic off I-26 and serve commuters and serve tourists well. The problem is that the designers have put a poison pill in the plan, and they are trying to run the last mile or so down the middle of Meeting Street. We need to put that, change it to the old the old rail line, underneath I-26, underneath US 17, and have a project that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Dr. William Wilson, and I live on Church Street. I had timed this thing to 3 minutes, and now I find I got 1 minute, so it's going to be very hard to understand. I was in an automobile accident. I got slammed by another car. The facts are behind me. The witness saw it unfold right behind me. I hate to say this about the police department, because I have all the respect for the police department, but the offending driver got no citation. And apparently, there's always officer discretion about who gets the ticket. But at any rate, this person, because they did not get a citation, did not have to come to court. I didn't get my day in court, and the other driver didn't have to come in to explain why the accident happened. There obviously was no attention being paid to the flashing red light that she came through and slammed me. And so texting, it seems to me, if we don't have somebody getting a citation, having to come to court, having to say why they didn't get in an accident, if we don't look for texting, we're not going to find it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Here we are. You're going to spend money on a bikeway again. God, you know, what moronic idiot figured this out that, you know, you could spend money on something when you got people being flooded all over the city, especially off Bees Ferry? You know, you really need to anticipate where you need to put your money. Definitely not a bikeway, unless they want to pay for it. I'd prefer that they pay for it. I mean, having to dodge them all day around town is horrible. Next thing, timing of the lights on 17 South. Lord, you know, you got a computer and a program and studies, and you still can't get it right. Came down this morning, I'm looking, red light, red light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light. You know, somebody needs to get off their you-know-whats early in the morning to figure out what's going on. Next thing, council member supposedly living in a condo owned by a Canadian. Okay, went by there, 9 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, no lights on. Chalked the car, hadn't moved in weeks.
Okay. All right, so Katie Zimmerman, Winslow Hasty, Ashley Demothenes, Ashley will have to help me with that, Lauren Gelatley, and Fran Clasby. So why don't I just say Lauren and Ashley?
That's right.
Okay, followed by Fran Clasby. I'm ready.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to follow that. Katie Zimmerman, Executive Director of Charleston Moves. I just want to thank you for taking the first steps that you did in Ways and Means and at yesterday's committee meeting as well in support of both the Low Line and this grant application for a new bicycle and pedestrian bridge. This is great. These are two projects that in the long run are going to be amazing. Really appreciate these first steps. I also wanted to just submit for the record, obviously the support letter from Charleston Moves, but also from the Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, Senator Marlon Kimpson, MUSC, West Edge, the East Coast Greenway Alliance, the Coastal Conservation League, Historic Charleston Foundation, GeoCent, and Boomtown. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Good evening, Winslow Hasty. I'm sort of wearing two hats tonight. First, my hat with Historic Charleston Foundation. I do want to submit our support for the Tiger Grant application for the Ashley River Bridge multi-use standalone project. We're very excited that maybe we could break that log jam and get a solution to connect the two very important parts of our city. Secondly, I'm also the president of the board of the Friends of the Low Country Low Line. We had a very excellent, robust discussion earlier, both in the real estate committee as well as Ways and Means, and we are feeling excited about where we're headed with that, but we urge your support in moving forward with that very important project. Again, both of these are all about connecting our community and reuniting our divided neighborhoods, and so we look forward to moving forward to the next phase of the Low Line, which is the fun part, community engagement, park design, fundraising, all that good stuff, but we just need to gain control of the land first. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I forgot my stool, sorry. Can we lower it just a little bit? I'm really not good at that. I'll just stand on my tippy toes. My name's Ashley Demosthenes, the president and CEO of Low Country Land Trust. We're based in downtown Charleston, and it's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm here to speak in support of the Low Country Low Line. The mission of the Land Trust is to protect important open spaces across the entire low country of South Carolina, in the urban and in the rural areas. And I just want to commend Mike and Jenny Messner and Friends of the Low Line for their vision. They've had quite a bit of perseverance for this project, and I want to thank the leadership of the City Council and the Mayor in support of this project. It is absolutely critical. It's a very rare opportunity to come across a project like this within the city of Charleston, and I want to echo Winslow's comments about reknitting the community back together. Green space does that, and you've seen it in communities all across the country. So thank you, City of Charleston, for your leadership on this, and Low Country Land Trust is in full support.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lauren Galatly. I'm the Community Development Director with Low Country Local First. Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Low Country Local First staff and Board of Directors this evening to speak in support of two different projects. First, for the city's contribution to the purchase of the Low Line, and secondly, for the Ashley Bridge bike and pedestrian path. We feel as an organization that both of these projects offer significant opportunities for economic benefit for local businesses and also benefits for employers to help their people get to their jobs. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I want to start with thanking everyone, mayor, council persons, staff. It's all good to see you again. I'm Frank Clasby, and I live in Wagner Terrace, and I rode my bike here tonight. And I wanted to just give the briefest request. Low country, low line, livability, and life. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we'll have Fred McKay, Paul Banker, Wink Banker, Mary Carmichael, and David Bixler.
Good evening, Mayor Tecklenburg, City Council, and our fellow Charlestonians. I'm Fred McKay, principal of the Charleston Catholic School at 888 King Street. We're about 1 block from the proposed location of the Low Country Low Line Linear Park, and would like to express support for this project. I think it'll enhance our neighborhood near our school, and I think it'll offer the students at our school various opportunities with the running and pedestrian path that it'll create. So urge council and Mayor to support this project. Thank you.
I think the bankers had to leave. They're parents at my school.
Okay.
I'm Mary Carmichael. I'm the principal at Charleston Charter School for Math and Science. The parents that were to go before me, they have 4 kids at our school and live just a few blocks from the school, so they're very excited, I know, about being able to safely get up and down a different avenue than just King Street. So we've got many of the kids that go back to grandma's house or auntie's house in the afternoon, and having that greenway behind the school would be excellent. We've got kids that have already been working with the Low-Lying Committees to do stewardship of that land and are excited to have gardening spaces and other things there. So we look forward to hopefully being good partners in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Tecklenburg and City Council. I'm here on representing the Cannonboro-Elliott Borough Neighborhood Association, and we also want to give our complete support and endorsement to the Low Line project. We think it'll be a great asset to our community in the way it will tie the Upper Peninsula together and make us actually better neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Chris Cody, Jason Crowley, Luann Rosenwig, and who is that? I don't know. Okay, so Anna Birdseye and whoever it was before her, 2818 Plygen. Okay, who is it?
Rosa Johnson.
That's not Nelson.
All right, well, let's proceed first with, where were we?
I think Chris?
Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. I am Chris Cody, and I'm here I represent Historic Charleston Foundation, and I'm here this evening to express our full support for the Low Line project. We'd like to congratulate the Friends of the Low Line and everyone else in this room who's helped bring this tremendous opportunity before the city. We're very fortunate to have this opportunity to create what truly will become something that I believe we can all be proud of. We know of the many benefits that have already been touted that it will bring, and we continue to discover new ones, such as drainage in New Market Creek, and we are confident that as we move forward with this project, even more benefits for our city will be brought forth. So we urge you to continue to support this project and thank everyone involved for making this incredible opportunity possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Jason Crowley, Director of Communities and Transportation for the Coastal Conservation League. 3 very quick things. First, I want to reiterate the support in our letter that you received earlier by Katie of our support for the Tiger Grant for the Ashley River Bicycle Pedestrian Bridge and our enthusiastic support for the Low Line acquisition. This right-of-way opens up an incredible opportunity for multimodal transportation through our community, and it's going to be a great asset to the Upper Peninsula as well as my own district where I reside in District 3. And finally, on Thursday evening, you all should have received an invitation from us. We have our annual Winthrop Civic Forum this year focused on resiliency, and we have as our keynote speaker Mr. Jamie Springer from HR&A Advisors, who worked on resilience strategies for cities of New York, New Orleans, Boston, Norfolk. It's going to be really a very important timely event, and Councilman Seekings will also be sitting on the panel, so I encourage you all to attend, and it'll be at the Francis Marion at 5:30. Thank you.
I'm Luann Rosenzweig from the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. Last week, CAJM requested a meeting with Mayor Tecklenburg to share our concerns about the qualifications of RTI. Mayor Tecklenburg included in that meeting Julia Novak, a representative from RTI, and Councilmember Shade. In that meeting, we expressed our concern that RTI was not qualified to conduct the promised audit of the Charleston Police Department. Perhaps part of the problem is that we have a higher standard for what it means for a company to be qualified. A company isn't qualified just because they are good people, Mayor. A company isn't qualified just because they have successfully accomplished work in other areas. A company is qualified when they can produce examples of work that show they have successfully completed similar work before.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman. My name is LaRosa Johnson. I'm with Cajun. Neither Novak nor our IT have ever produced any audit with accommodation on how to address the problem with discrimination and policing. We aren't interested in just the studying of the problem. We are interested in solving the problem. To do that, we must have recommendations. In our meeting with the mayor and Ms. Novak, in the meeting with the mayor, Ms. Novak stated that her bias had been to research for academic research and subcontracts, neither than the police and for the police auditing firm. This statement by Ms. Novak perfectly clarified the problem we have had with this entire process. We asked for a police auditor. You are providing us with an academic researchers.
Thank you.
Ann Birdseye, Charleston Area Justice Ministry. There is a very distinct difference between an academic study and a police audit for racial bias. A police audit for racial bias does not only analyze the data of traffic and pedestrian stops. An audit looks at the unwritten policies and practices that lead to these stops and how people are treated after they are stopped. An audit examines hiring, promotion, and training policies and the impact of the reward system. An audit investigates how complaints and critical incidents are handled, the state of departmental culture and officer morale, as well as the lived experiences of community members and their interactions with the police. Finally, real police auditors go deep to the root of why there is mistrust of the police, making all these things transparent and offering strong recommendations for improvement based on best practices. Academic researchers simply do not do all these things because they are not equipped to.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Janie George, or maybe Jamie George, Mavis Hugie, Suzanne Hardy, Brandon Chapman.
Jamie George with Charleston Area Justice Ministries. RTA's prior work in policing only used one methodology to analyze the traffic stop data. Police auditing firms use multiple methodologies and frameworks to ensure that there is consistency in their findings. This is why RTI's limited analysis of the Fayetteville Police Department found no racial disproportionality, while the Department of Justice's extensive assessment found racial bias. None of RTI's reports have had recommendations for improvement. Every qualified police auditing firm includes numerous recommendations for improvements in their report. So relying on just RTI and Novak to do this work leaves large gaps in not just the work to be done, but the quality and credibility of the report.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mavis Hugie, Charleston Area Justice Ministry. In our meeting last week, Ms. Novak also stated that Novak Consulting still plans to do 3/4 of the work. Ms. Novak broke the work down into 4 sections: understanding community experience, understanding the police experience, understanding the data, offering recommendations to address the problems. Ms. Novak shared that the only part of the work that RTI will be doing is the piece about understanding the data, and that her firm would complete the rest of the work. The point of hiring a subcontractor was to put the work in the hands of an experienced police auditor who has extensive experience in doing a deep dive into policies and practices for bias and offering strong recommendations for improvement based on best practices.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Suzanne Hardy, I live in Gary White's district. At our meeting last Thursday, we asked about the cost of the work. Neither the mayor, NOVAC, or RTI could provide answers, citing that the scope of the work was still not defined. We first raised the alarm with the mayor in November of 2016 about a proper scope of work needing to be defined in the RFP so that a firm that was qualified would be hired. We provided examples at that time. But the inadequate RFP led to the hiring of NOVAC. We raised the alarm again about the scope of work before the hiring of RTI. The scope of work is vital. It ensures that companies are not given a blank check for the work, and it also ensures that the city hires a company with qualifications to do that work. The city wastes our taxpayer dollars when it hires companies before they're certain of what we're going to ask them to do. The city wastes our tax dollars when it hires companies before determining whether they are qualified to do the work. Now that is truly putting the cart before the horse. We're coming to you again with a scope of work and also deliverables we expect.
I'm Brandon Chapman, and I'm a member of the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. The city wrote a thorough scope of work for the efficiency portion for the work that NOVAC is doing. When it comes to performance and process improvement assessments, NOVAC Consulting is among the best in the field. Mr. Mayor, this is why we're flummoxed. Through an efficiency auditor, the city is proposing the least efficient route for the police audit. Rather than hire one of the best police auditing firms with all the skills and personnel in-house to conduct an audit, we're parsing out the work in a piecemeal fashion to different firms with checkered experience.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, we have Deborah Agbor-Tabby, Arthur McFarland, Timothy Squire, and Rufus Pinckney.
I am Deborah Agbor-Tabby, and you said that very well. Thank you very much. I'm here with KJM. Just wanted to let you know, NOVAC and RTI have much to gain. They'll be able to pad their resumes with racial bias study of Charleston, South Carolina. Cities across the country will be interested in hiring a company with the experience of doing a racial bias study of Charleston, South Carolina. What do we get? Well, since they've never done this before, we get to be their training ground. With our history of race in Charleston, do we really want to be guinea pigs for them to do this work the first time? Why is it that when it comes to issues that impact the African American community most, the city cuts corners? And what will it take for Charleston to finally do the right thing and give us a real audit, not a study? What will it take for Charleston to give us the audit that our community deserves? Right the sinking ship. We've given you many ways that this vital work can be salvaged. We ask that you act.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm Arthur McFarland, Cajun board member. In order to have a credible audit the city, police department, and community can all trust, we need to hire a specialized police auditor to address this serious issue. Since Ms. Novak indicated additional partners may be hired, we strongly suggest that additional consultants be hired from experienced police auditing firm to advise Novak in filling the large gaps in the current study and turn it into a real audit. We have previously provided a list of expert police auditors in racial bias that are suitable to draw from. We have attached some of those, all of those names to the letters that we've given you today. These are police auditing firms that are already vetted and trusted. We recommend adding one of them to the project to give the work the credibility it needs to be trusted by this community.
Thank you, sir.
We need one for the record, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I'm from Johns Island, and I'm concerned about the development and the zoning of property there in ways that, especially as in low-lying property that interferes with drainage. We've been hearing more and more about that issue recently. It also exacerbates flooding which is a significant problem in various areas, especially on Johns Island, and it overburdens the roads and the existing transportation infrastructure. The council has received excellent recommendations about growth and about zoning, but these are not codified into city ordinances. So I urge the council to undertake measures to make these recommendations more than something can be casually observed, but become city ordinances. Thank you all.
Rufus Pinckney.
Good evening. Yes, sir. Happy to be here. Happy to see all my loved ones. The Illumination Project has brought a lot of love to the city. And I think the next session is going to be at Bishop Gadsden. I look forward to being there. I went out of town before, but I don't have time to go into that. But the thing is, on Tuesday nights, I am in a history course. I'm on a history course. I'm not here for the meetings. However, I would like to know Mary Ellen Drive, the dock. I don't want to be blind. I want to know exactly if that's going to remain private or if that's still being worked on.
What property is that?
Mary Ellen Drive, the dock at Mary Ellen Drive.
We're still working with the neighborhood association to remain publicly available.
I appreciate you, Mayor, and you know how I feel. I mean about you and everybody else. I think Ms. Mayback has not got me yet, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit to it. In reality, just like the Illumination Project, I can settle now for not fishing there as I have and used to do. But the fact is, I hope the city can really go. Thank you.
Since the mayor answered a question in your time, I thought.
What's going on with the microphone?
It's near the mic.
I'll just use it.
It's feedback.
All right, so I want to thank our citizens for being with us tonight and for your input. And maybe to return the favor, I'd like to invite everybody to the movies with me next Wednesday night at Citadel Mall. There's a special showing of this really heartwarming story that's just coming out called Same Kind of Different as Me. And the theater has agreed to show it on as many screens as folks want to come, and it's a grand opening, and 6:30 next Wednesday. I invite everybody to come see. Google Same Kind of Different as Me, and I think you'll be, if you can't make it next Wednesday, please come another time. No charge to come in. You're welcome.
Mayor.
Councilmember Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given that I chair public safety, a copy of this, the scope of work for the audit of the Charleston Police Department, was sent to me earlier today. I've had a chance to read it. I've had a chance to mull it over. And what I would like to do is call a meeting of the Public Safety Department. When the scope of work was being developed, we had talks with Ms. Novak. We agreed as a committee that CAJM would certainly be a part of those conversations. And we've talked about the Illumination Project and all of that. In reading many of these areas of assessment, there's some very reasonable stuff here. And I would like to call up a meeting of the Public Safety Department. I would like to discuss this in a little more depth, see what we might take from this, and continue this process of the scope of work for the audit of the police department with these recommendations and taking a good look at them and the greater conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chairman, as the Vice President of that committee, I certainly would second your motion that we convene a meeting, Public Safety Commission.
Terrific. We look forward, as a member of the committee, I look forward to the meeting. Yes, ma'am. All right. Moving forward, our next item on the agenda is our Committee on Traffic and Transportation. Chairman Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Traffic and Transportation met today at about 3:23. We began with a moment of silence, and that was about it for quiet in that meeting. We took up two matters that need approval from this council. The first was amending a part of our city code, which is Chapter 19, Article 8, Division 1, which essentially is a one-line change, which makes it clear that if you are in violation of our parking ordinances in the city of Charleston, you may but not necessarily will be subject to towing. The second was we took up our stopping, standing, and parking ordinance that we've been working on now for a couple of years. Some of the highlights of that are as follows. You will not be penalized if you park at a meter that is broken. That took up about 99% of the conversation, and I'd like to thank my fellow council members for showing us the way on that. You will be required, if you're going to get a residential parking sticker, to be a resident of the city of Charleston. And if you're going to have a P-tag and park in the commercial zone, you're going to have to be involved in commercial activity. Those are the three highlights of the changes that were all approved by the committee unanimously. We also took up a discussion of the Tiger discretionary grant, which you heard about. And the last thing we did after, I'd like to move for adoption of the two matters that need to come before the council, but the last thing we did was you heard an update on the citywide transportation plan for Mr. Benjamin. I'd like to ask him just to take 30 seconds to tell you about that, because there's going to be a series of meetings and a charrette that I think will be of interest to the citizens. So I'd move for adoption of the report as to items 3 and 4, and then ask Mr. Benjamin to speak.
We have a motion, though, and a second. Mr. Benjamin.
To remove the, correct. You can.
Okay. Mr. Benjamin.
Can we get the motion through and then ask Mr. Benjamin?
Okay. Do we have any discussion or additions to the motion? Councilmember Shade and then Mitchell.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at section 19-242, which deals with this P marking, P tag. What I understand is that the state regulates the issuance of these P tags, and I know that anybody who shows up and pays $65 can get this P tag. And I'm speaking this from personal experience as well, because right down the street on Broad Street in front of my office, there's a space for commercial parking, and I know that area that space has been abused. But I use that space, and I'm trying to figure out how this is going to square with people who are sole practitioners like myself or small business people like myself, because I use that space to load and unload stuff in my office, and I need it. And so do other folks who are sort of in my same boat. So what kind of commercial marking are you expecting for a law office to have, or any other kind of small business to have, in order to be in compliance with this ordinance? That's sort of the question I have with this. I mean, I think the intent here is wonderful, because I know that the P tags have been abused in the past, but as we're going through this, I don't have a marking on my vehicle. I don't advertise Shade Law Office on my vehicle or in any capacity. I mean, if I put a card on my cars, that could be sufficient. I'd have a letter for myself on the dashboard. If I'm otherwise in compliance with this rule, then I'm wondering how other small businesses are going to be not in violation of the spirit or intent of this. And so maybe some clarification may be in order for this section of the ordinance.
Right.
Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to that?
You can speak to it, and we have legal here too, if we need to.
I mean, you have to identify yourself as a small business. If you have a P tag, you can put a placard in the front of your car. You can put a magnet on the side of it. I mean, you're a lawyer. People want to know who you are. But yeah, just something that identifies you as engaged in commercial activity in that commercial parking space. Because as you know, I mean, we have a huge dearth of available places for people in commercial activity to do that. This will help you if you're in commercial activity, and will stop people from parking in places they shouldn't. We have a problem with it. We've done the study, and we're going to do more, by the way. We're going to have a large-scale parking study in the city, so we'll look at this again, but this is something that is needed.
And my concern with this is that I'm in support of this, so I'm beginning a misunderstanding, but as I'm traveling up and down King Street, particularly in the morning coming to my office, large trucks, delivery trucks, block the King Street. They block other major corridors along Meeting Street. They're not parking in these designated areas. And I've discussed it with somebody else. Hotels and their shuttle vans are blocking intersections with all of this. And so I applaud the committee for what they're doing on this thing. It is a huge problem, but I think perhaps something along this in this ordinance needs to be clear as to that placard or that marking so that we're in compliance with that. I mean, maybe just a simple sign would do it, but also I think that not using the loading zones, if you are a commercial vehicle and you taking up meter spaces or blocking intersections, needs to be part of this enforcement protocol as well.
So if I can briefly, that is a separate part of the ordinance which we adopted some time ago now. We actually have times for delivery in the spine of the city, especially in the King Street corridor where the large delivery trucks are supposed to deliver, and they're supposed to be in designated areas off of King Street to the side streets. So that's a separate issue, and if we need some enforcement on that, we'll get it. As to the shuttles, they are subject to another set of separate rules, which I think have done a pretty good job on enforcement. So,
Councilmember Mitchell?
No, I had two gentlemen call me today pertaining to that. They say it'll be the next council meeting, but they have what they call a P-tag themselves, and they have a business on King Street, but they use it when they pull up just to do unloading and leaving. But they said, the previous ordinance said they had 30 minutes or something like that before they can park there and leave.
that's a loading zone.
Yeah, loading zone. So
Again,
it's still going to be the same with the permit P-tags. You can come and unload and load up. That's what he was asking me.
We're adding the requirement that in addition to having a P-tag, that you also need to identify your vehicle as to what business you represent.
Correct.
Well, they'll come here and explain that to them when
That's
they
fine.
call.
I'm happy to have them call me. We talked about that in committee today.
Because they own the businesses right on Meeting Street, so they...
I suspect I know who the
And
person
for
is.
clarity purposes, our flexibility with this is very minuscule. This is dictated by the state. Right, so in terms of the tags that are assigned. So for our parking enforcement officers, I think the piece of it is how do they make sure that we have that turnover happening in a quick enough time where people are able to get in, do their deliveries and otherwise, right? So we don't have, piece of this parking is also congestion mitigation, right? That morning of these trucks being in the way and not being able to use those commercial loading zones as they should, being in the way of the street corridors and causing more traffic. So how does this play into that portion as well? Our line of flexibility is very small at the city level. It's really state.
Any other comments or questions of council? Hearing none, Councilmember Waring.
I'm in favor of it, but do we have a manner in which to address the small business person like Councilman Shade? Because we have some of those still remaining on King Street. A lot of the mom and pop businesses, they run out when they can and they need that little place to duck in, like he alluded to, the offload goods and services and then move their car back.
What they need to do...
They have a P-tag, they can use the loading
They
zone.
have a P-tag, and what they need to do is take a piece of paper and identify their business, maybe put some plastic over it and put it in their car when they're going to be up there, or truck, whatever, so we know that they're a local business engaged in local business activity. It's not particularly onerous, and it's going to be very beneficial to them because they will actually get to use the loading zones in and around their business legitimately, which right now is not happening.
So the meter maid is going to recognize that?
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is we were told, Bill Moody and I, Councilman Moody and I, that when we park, if we were to put our ID tags on the dash, we won't get a ticket. You got one and so did I. We paid them, by the way. We paid them.
Again, another issue that we can discuss.
Councilmember Gregory, did you want to contribute?
We're going to get a quick briefing on the citywide transportation
Yes, sir.
plan. Okay.
Yeah.
After we get this vote.
I think we're going to vote on
I'd like to do
the
that.
approval of this motion first.
Yeah, I just have a request for Councilmember Seeking for the Traffic Transportation Committee.
Yes, sir.
Concerning the parking garages. You go in these parking garages now and they got signs saying they're going to be automated. I think this council needs to be updated on which garages is going to be automated, who authorized it, because we know that the garages have a private contractor to run it, but it's still owned by the city. And what's going to happen to those employees? I mean, these things are happening, and we sitting here, people asking us questions, and we don't know nothing. I certainly would hope this committee can bring us a report.
I think that comes under our purview, Councilmember, and as you know, I was at a meeting with you, Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Mitchell, I think there was another council member there talking with the employees in those parking garages, so we will put it on our agenda to have a discussion. We would like to invite you to come to that meeting as well, and we will take up the automation, what the schedule is, where we are with all that, and how it's all going to work.
And who
For the
Yes,
record,
sir.
I'm sorry. For the record, I had my first meeting with all the managers of ABM who is the company that is managing a lot of the garages, supposed to be also picking up our coins from our meters, and otherwise to talk to them about routes, pickups, their service to their employees, and parking in general. So I'm supposed to have that in 2 days.
All right, Councilmember Mitchell.
Along with the parking
then Waring.
garages, I met, I think Councilman Waring and I met with them, and they said they wasn't going to do it. Certain time they said they wasn't going to do automation, and they said, oh no, we're going to have somewhere in the booth when people come by. We pride ourselves in the city of Charleston with customer service. There's not going to be anyone there. And see, I got a problem when anybody lies to me, and when they lie to me, that's it. I don't have any use for them anymore. And that's what they did to me when I met with the gentleman from out of town, who was the president or chairman or whomever it was, and we met with them. But then we also have churches that we, as the city of Charleston, have given churches to be able to park there until 2 o'clock for their church services. When they go automation, the church is not going to be able to park there because just like the church I belongs to, we usually stamp our validated ticket. There's nobody going to be there to do that. So these particular things that we have to look into to see what's going on with the automation. See, all those things, a lot of things people are not looking at because most of these churches are using those garages because we as a city give them that permission to do it up until 2 o'clock. After 2 o'clock, if you go there, you have to pay.
So Councilmember, we like, as you know, we haven't done a look at our parking since 1998. This past Monday, we released the RFQ to do an entire parking study with dollars that were allocated in last year's budget. And it's going to be looking at everything, our garages, our revenues, our density, every piece about it, so that we can have a better understanding from other best practices from other cities, how we're supposed to move forward on that. So if there's ways in which you want to be a part of that discussion, and otherwise, please let me know, because we want to make sure that it's as comprehensive as possible.
Just in the meantime, if we prove that and they do it with the automation, all these churches are going to be out of their place to park. Because if they go in that garage, they're not going to be able to get out unless they pay. And see, I got a problem with that. And I'm going to have a big problem. And I told EBM that, and I said, if you come here with the contract of city council, I will vote against it. Because you are putting people out of jobs. Oh, no, we're not. Yes, they are. You see, and I can see it, and I go to those garages all the time. Even with the city garage right by the auditorium, now they have the big sign, automation coming soon. We as council members, Councilman Waring, it took me almost 10 minutes to get out of there. I have to put the card in, call them, they'll get on the phone and call me back, take the card out, they'll tell, look on the back of the card, look on the back, give me the date, give me the time. I say, what is all this? And then they'll say, okay, then it's crazy the way you're doing it now. And I said, we got to do better. Like I said, we pride ourselves in customer service. This is not good customer service so far as I'm concerned right now. Yep. So we got to look at it very seriously because I'll rally to vote against it. And they can take that contract and go somewhere else with it.
Okay.
Because they're not doing what they actually said they was going to do.
Accountability is needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When, Mr. Benjamin?
Yes, sir.
And for your benefit, Mr. Mayor, there's some institutional knowledge that's not being passed along. When we had the last RFQ that resulted in ABM getting this contract, there were comparisons done with the surface parking lots, the parking garages, as a matter of fact, all the parking. Councilman White, myself, and Councilman at the time, Alexander, served on that committee. The final 3 companies came in, may have been a 4th, but I know 3 came and made presentations. There was one out of Chicago that wanted to go automation on all of those parking garages that we have. Specifically, that committee voted against that company because we did not want to go all the way automated. Because there are times when, believe it or not, some of these parking attendants are many ambassadors in our community. When people, all these tourists come through and they need a direction or some other query when they come through to pay, those people give a customer service. And I think that's somehow being done without or undermined. Certainly a machine can't do that. ABM wouldn't have this contract today if they were going to tell us the parking garages that are actually automated right now. For example, is the aquarium automated? I know Queen Street is. I know Queen Street because we got trapped up in that after the last meeting. But they would not have that contract today if the declaration was Queen Street. I came out of the aquarium the other day, and actually this was in July. It was very hot, first week of July. The booth was gone, and the attendant was standing on the concrete median. Now, I don't know what kind of working conditions that anybody want to work in that, assisting people going in and out of the garage. What was the air-conditioned booth has been removed, and the attendant was standing on the concrete median with all the exhaust fumes, in that case, the first week of July heat. She didn't know I was a councilman. I asked her, how long you been doing this? She said, I don't know, but I can't be doing this too long, and she's right. That's a workers' comp claim, sucking in carbon monoxide like that, going in and out. So this is being done without council approval, and that's something that needs to come up to the council level. Not only Traffic and Transportation Committee, they got the contract because they said they were going to keep the employees, and that's not happened. So it is an issue that needs to bubble up to this level, and a vote being taken to say what direction we're going to go. And we make money on our garage.
Yeah, I'll round back with our real estate folk who are the ones who actually do the operations there and try to get that together. Accountability is needed across the board in that regard, so if we can get your help in that regard, that would be amazing.
Thank you.
All right. So back to the matter at hand, to approve the matters that were before the Transportation Committee today. Any other questions about all that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the ayes have it.
And now, Mr. Mayor, if we can have Mr. Benjamin give us a very short briefing on the Citywide Transportation Plan and the charrette/meetings that are going to take place with the public.
Yes, sir. So all of you should have received in your email and also in your mail the invitation to the charrette that we're doing for the Citywide Transportation Plan, October 25th through the 27th. The goal in this process is to make sure that we're accounting for the qualitative data, which is the people's voice. So we're excited about hosting at Boomtown and at the Harbor Entrepreneurship Center. To give you a sense, as I stated to you, just because I know it has to be quick, but that evening of the 25th is just a public engagement session, but during the day on the 25th and also throughout the day on the 26th, there'll be specific stakeholder engagement sessions. Over the last 2 days, I've sent out over 300 stakeholder emails and calls to particular stakeholder groups to get them engaged in there. Just to give it to you so you know times and locations, on the 25th from 10 to 11 is our Startup Tech and Business. From 1 to 2 is SEDOT, both Charleston and Berkeley County, Charleston City staff, and also the COG. 3 to 4 is Art Preservation, Education, and Health. On the 26th, it's Bike Ped and Transit. 1 to 2 is Landowners and Developers. And then from 5 to 6:30 is Neighborhood Councils, faith-based groups, Civil Rights and Community Associations. I wanted to make sure if we're going to be talking about transportation, it affects a whole swath of folk, not certain sections. So I wanted to make sure our outreach was in that regard. This engagement will help us meet the goal of identifying the 13 locations throughout the city, 10 intersections and 3 corridors, at least a mile long, that we want to focus on, that are in addition to what the long-range regional plan is happening with the COG. That information will be taken, and then we'll come right back out to the public next spring through a road show with the recommendations of how we should be handling transportation going forward, as well as those 13 possible locations, and then hopefully go to publication in May 2018.
Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Gregory.
We have some plans, transportation plans on the shelf.
Yes, sir.
For instance, we say Quality Road.
Yes, sir.
Really a transportation plan. And I'm trying to figure out, are you guys going to incorporate what we already have on the shelf, or are we going to be starting from?
Yeah, so a part of what my obligation was before we even sat with the consultants was to provide that information. When I came on board, there was like 3 shelves of reports all the way back to 1982. I'm very adamant that I don't want this to be a visioning process. I really want this to be a prioritization process and holding our feet to the fire to the accountabilities that were set before. We set forth for a complete street policy back in 2008, 2009 that outlined how we should be looking at things. We have a neighborhood traffic calming program that was done in 96 and came out in 2000 that pretty much, if you read it today, would sound like we were in 2017. How do we bring those things to life in a way that makes sense for all of our land masses and not just certain?
I appreciate that answer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
That concludes the report, Mr.
That concludes the report. Excellent report. Next is our Committee on Public Works and Utilities. Chairman Williams.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion?
Second.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Councilmember Mitchell made the motion. I wanted to know who was the second.
Okay.
No,
Peter.
Okay.
you made the motion.
I made the motion.
made the motion?
Williams
Oh, I'm sorry, I
made the
didn't hear you.
motion.
I second
I didn't
it.
hear you. Okay.
Nice.
Mitchell.
All right, so it's Williams and Mitchell.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, our Committee on Ways and Means.
Second.
We have a move for approval of the report of all these things, including our passage of the low-line matters.
Along with the,
Any discussion or questions?
amendments. Just make sure you have the amendment
As amended.
as amended.
As amended.
As
You
amended,
also voted on your transportation item as amended.
that's correct. As amended. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And next is bills up for second reading.
Approval 1 through 8.
Through 8.
We got items
Eight.
1 through 8 that we're taking together. Any questions, discussions?
All right, who seconded your motion?
Who second that?
I need a second to Councilmember Mitchell's.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification of items 1 through 8. Did you capture who
Yes, Councilmember Regal.
moved and seconded? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now, we have no
No bills up.
bills up for
second
first reading. And if y'all will indulge me
First
just a
reading,
minute, I just signed my name 8 times.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, while you're signing your name, and we're at,
Councilmember Gregory.
we're at miscellaneous business.
Yes.
I would like to, Councilmember Wilson and I would like to place something on our next agenda.
Yes, sir.
We're developing a funding strategy for drainage and flooding in the area, and we'd like to present that to this body for discussion at our next meeting.
Certainly.
Excuse me, that's going to be inclusive of all parts of the city to include District 2 and the Church Creek Basin?
It's not project specific. It's how we can raise perhaps $100 million to perhaps address some of the issues over there.
Love to have it. Thank you.
Great. Terrific. Okay, I'm all signed up. Any other business come before this council?
Yeah,
Councilmember Moody.
Just out of curiosity, I saw in the paper under the real estate section, the city sold, property at Long Branch.
I think that was an error. I think it was, I saw that too, and, I meant to ask, but, yeah. No. I think it was just a sale that occurred in the city of Charleston.
Mayor.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Councilmember Gregory?
Yeah, this is miscellaneous too. In reviewing applications for our chief and for our chiefs rather, I saw a distinct difference between the two, and I was wondering whether or not the city is moving toward a residency requirement for employees, because one did have a residency requirement.
Yeah, that matter came up, I think, from Councilmember Lewis, and I've asked our Director of Human HR to say that the chief should either live or be proximate to the city of Charleston, which would leave some judgment to it. I mean, even if you live West Ashley, you might be in a neighborhood that's not in the city. Avondale, you got one property that's in the city and one that's not. But, I mean, we wouldn't want to hire a chief that's living in Greenville. So, I mean, I would say they would need to live reasonably close to the city of Charleston.
We will put that provision in both?
Yes, I plan to put it on both.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Councilmember Waring.
No, you're going.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to call Ms. Katie Zimmerman back to the microphone, please, if you don't mind.
Can we impose upon Ms. Katie Zimmerman to come back to the microphone?
She wasn't at the real estate meeting, and she's done a wonderful job in reaching out and building communication links between folk with bike and pedestrian paths. And, a lot of people got up, and we certainly applauded them, but I wanted to bring you back. I asked Councilman Seekings Was Ms. Zimmerman at the meeting yesterday? And he said, no, I don't remember seeing you. But I know you did a lot of work, and we all know you did a lot of work involved with the low line and obviously the bike path and things like that, even up in Berkeley County with the COG and all of that. So I really appreciate your communication skills bringing people together. So thank you, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thanks.
No other business, we are hereby adjourned.
We do have some more business. I'm trying to ask people.